My name is Patrick Bafana Matidi. I'm the head of equities at Aluwani Capital Partners. So late August this year, the MTN executives alerted the shareholders that they have received notification from the Central Bank of Nigeria and also the regulator purporting to a 10 billion fine in total. 8 billion of that was with regards to dividends that had flown out of Nigeria to shareholders like ourselves in South Africa, which the authorities claim were done unlawfully or had not followed a due process. And then the other 2 billion, essentially they were saying that for the period up to 2015, MTN underrepresented the profits and therefore paid less tax. And it was the regulator saying, you actually owe us another $2 billion. So all in all, about $10 billion that they're claiming, which is a big sum of money for MTN Nigeria especially. And on the back of that, we saw the share price of MTN collapsing about 20% on the day. And since then, from the highest point of about 110 to the lowest point of about 67, it's about 47% decline. So, it's a tricky one because this is not the first time this is happening. We saw the similar story in 2015, 2016, where they were fined about $5 billion in total for start, where the authorities were claiming that MTN had not deactivated SIM cards that were not properly recorded. So on the back of that, there was this fine that was then pending. We saw a similar decline in value from a share price point of view. But then through negotiations, I guess, that fine was reduced to about $1 billion, which they had to fund and pay the regulator. So at that point, we thought that perhaps, MTN had learned its lesson. They're on the right side of regulation now. In fact, they had a change in leadership. At the time, the CEO was Sifiso Dabangwa. He exited the business. Putuma was then the chairperson, stepped down to be the CEO. Literally cleaned up the operation, changed the executive team. They brought in Rob Shooter from Vodacom to run the business. They have a good guy in Nigeria on the ground to try and localize the business a lot more from an executive point of view. So on the back of that, our view was clearly they have changed. They have seen the errors and then they're mending their ways. And this literally caught us by surprise, this latest sort of announcement. But I think for investors, we can take some comfort in the fact that if you look at the new team that has come in, clearly they don't have that baggage. They've just come in. So it's unlikely that they would have been part of this intrinsic aggression over the last while. But the issue still stands that there is this thing hanging over their heads that they need to sort out one or the other. And our view is, just like they did with the last time in 2016, it's likely that they will find some middle ground between the authorities and MTN, and perhaps the fine will be reduced to something a lot more manageable. We managed to stay away from it the first time around with the $5 billion fine. We were underweight. But as the new executive team came in, we found some comfort that perhaps they have mended their ways in terms of how they approach business in Africa. And this latest round found us overweight, so we have some exposure. Not a lot, but still a sizable portion of our funds are exposed to MTN. And with the sell-off, we did sell some, but not everything, down to about 80 rands, which is where it was trading from the initial sell-off. And we've been sort of waiting to see what next, from a next move point of view. Again, our view is MTN Nigeria is big enough in the Nigerian economy, plays a strategic role, is a big payer, big employer, and therefore the Nigerian population and the government, they actually need MTN. Similarly, MTN Group does need MTN Nigeria because it's a big region. It's actually a big chunk of the profit contribution. So they both need each other, and either way, we think that there will be some solution where perhaps the 8 billion gets reduced to something a lot more manageable. But if it were to go through as is, as 10 billion, then clearly MTN Nigeria cannot afford that number. It's too big in their lives. And certainly the balance sheet in Nigeria and also in South Africa will have to be under a lot of strain, which then has other implications from a sustainability point of view.